You've probably heard of the 50-20-30 rule. At its core, it's pretty simple to summarize, and there are hundreds of articles, YouTube videos, and even TikToks that explain the fundamentals of this approach. So in today's video, I wanted to take you more in depth and look at this rule, looking at its origins and how you can actually start implementing it today to manage your money. A lot of people think that if something is working in the present, then why change it? If that was the case, then all you'd need to do to have a successful business and get rich would be time. But that doesn't explain why so many businesses fail. Take the story of Kodak, for example. They dominated the photography film market during most of the 20th century, and yet their misjudgment of the future of photography led them to file for bankruptcy in 2012. They didn't foresee the future of digital photography and held on to film photography until it nearly ruined them. Ironically, they actually invented the first digital camera back in 1975, and their management's reaction was, well, that's cute, but don't tell anyone about it. See, one of the many examples of companies that were at one point doing really well, but they didn't account for the future, they're relying on things not changing and they were stuck to the present. And because of that, their futures didn't look so great. Same thing can happen with your personal finances. You can't count on the good old-fashioned belief of go to school, get a job, work hard, don't go crazy with spending, and everything will be fine. Not anymore. If you're not planning for the future when you're managing your money today and just focusing on getting by in the present, it's going to be so tough for you to build up that generational wealth that I know you can have. Elizabeth Warren and her daughter Amelia coined the 50-20-30 budget rule in their book All You're Worth: The Ultimate Lifetime Money Plan. They popularized the rule to help individuals cover all their bills, expenses, without the anxiety of how will I make it through for the rest of this month? And the best part is, it's super easy to start implementing with just 3 steps. Step 1, they call it counting all your worth. This is the first step about balance. You've heard of balanced diets, right? Well, money follows the same general idea. There's a reason why one person can manage fine on $40,000 a year while another person struggles with $140,000 a year. And it's not because the second person is just gambling away their fortune every weekend in Las Vegas. It's because they haven't found the right balance. When you balance your budget correctly, you'll find that it's a lot easier to pay all your bills while also still having enough to save and put towards your future. Honestly, I think it's actually even simpler than a diet because there are only 3 categories. When you get your money balanced, your financial worries will start to fade away because you have total control over it. You know what's coming in, you know how it's being used, and you have these specific percentages that you know you're going to allocate towards your needs, wants, and savings. Let's take a look at your must-haves. These are your basic bills like your mortgages or rent, car payments, phone bills, health insurance, etc. Back in our grandparents' days, it feels like it was probably easier to live comfortably paying for all your bills without breaking the bank. The mortgage was cheap, student loans were low or almost non-existent, and no one had credit cards. These days, life is different, and paying all those basic bills can feel very daunting each and every single month. So in their book, Elizabeth Warren and Amelia suggest asking yourself the following statements, and if you say true to more than one of these, then you need to examine your must-haves. Number 1, I worry about having enough money to cover my regular bills on a month-to-month basis. Number 2 is the majority of my money goes on to uncontrollable payments like rent or car payments. Number 3, after paying the bills, I've hardly got enough money left. Number 4, I buy within my means, yet I have no savings. Now, the same applies to the wants. Do you answer true to any of the following statements? Number 1, when I go shopping, I'm not sure what I can afford. Number 2, I don't know where my money goes. And number 3, I work hard and buy what I deserve. Number 4 is I buy things I couldn't really afford. So in the old days, people actually had to wait to buy things. We didn't have any credit cards and you'd have to wait for your money to come in before you could actually pay for something. It was an easy way to live because there was no looming debt above us, and we've all heard the saying, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Yet, even though we all know the importance of saving, most of us seem to struggle to save even the basic amounts. Now, for the self-test again. Do you answer true to any of the following statements? I work hard, yet struggle to save. I carry a balance on my credit card most months. I worry about retirement. I have to pay for major purchases in installments. And number 5, I need to take out credit for small emergencies like car trouble or a small hospital bill, etc. If you said true to any of the ones that I just said, you're probably finding it hard to save. You might have tried using willpower and cutting back on the basics, but no matter what you do, you still can't save. So what is the magic solution that Elizabeth Warren and her daughter Amelia propose? Well, their formula is called the 50-20-30 rule. Take your net income, meaning the money that hits your bank account after taxes, and you're going to divide that up into 3 separate categories. Number 1 being must-haves or needs. That should account for 50% of your income. Number 2 being savings, which includes money that you'll use to pay down debt or contribute to your emergency fund, etc. You should allocate 20% of your income towards your savings. And number 3 being wants, like traveling, eating out, shopping, etc. You should allocate no more than 30% of your income towards your wants. That's what they call their perfectly balanced formula. Now you may be saying, that's all great, Nas, but how do I actually balance all of these? Well, that's where step 2 comes in. Before you can actually implement the 50-20-30 rule, you need to escape from these thinking traps. So I'm not a self-development coach or anything. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go too far into detail on this. However, in their book, they do outline how you can reverse engineer your negative thought patterns about money. They also talk about how you can stop playing the blame game and pointing your fingers at everything under the sun, like the economy is bad, or I'm too old, I have kids, I didn't start early enough, I'm single, I'm married, etc. Like, forget all these excuses. Once you stop pointing fingers, it becomes easier to think logically about your income and how you can apply this rule to your life. So go through all of your expenses and look at your income. What are your must-haves? What are your wants? And how can you shift them to allow you to save? Sure, in the beginning, you may have to start with a 55-30-15 split, but isn't that much better than zero wants or savings at all? If you start smaller, you can incrementally build it up until you reach your final goal. You see, the final step is to count your dollars, not your pennies. Sure, you can buy in bulk from Costco and other wholesale brands to skim off a few pennies here and there. But is that really helping you at all? I mean, it does help, but what you really need to do to actually tackle this is to shave off a few dinosaur level expenses, like the stuff which you've just accepted as unchangeable, but you can change them. For example, you can shop for cheaper car insurance or health insurance. You can move into a more affordable home, rent a cheaper place, sell your current home if your mortgage is too expensive. You can even get a roommate to split the bill with you. Those are some of the big things that are really gonna have an impact. Obviously, I'm not suggesting to go sell everything and leave as a complete minimalist, but do give yourself a goal. Start looking at your must-haves and see what could be reduced. Start easy with the likes of, let's say, insurance. Phone bills. You don't need to have a PhD to shop online for cheaper alternatives. Then, once you've got a hold of these, slowly start adjusting the bigger expenses. Maybe you consider selling your car and buying a cheaper, greener vehicle, which does more miles to the gallon, like a Prius. In their book, they go a lot more into detail about these, so before making any drastic decisions based on a YouTube video, I'd recommend taking a look at what they have to say. They also explain how to maximize your savings through long-term investing. Speaking of which, if you're ready to start investing for your future, I'll link to my video to the guaranteed long-term millionaire investing strategy that I personally use right up here. So you see, at its core, the 50-20-30 rule is very simple and easy once you're able to divide your income into these 3 categories of your must-haves, your savings, and your wants. You'll actually be able to start taking control of your income instead of being controlled by your expenses. Also remember, there's a defined limit on how much you can save. So I think it's just as important to focus simultaneously on how to increase your income through investing in other side hustles. Thank you guys so much for sticking here till the very end. Please hit that like button if you enjoyed this content and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate you guys coming here on this YouTube journey with me, and I hope you have an amazing day. See you in the next one.